Previously on Funny Science Fiction.
Yeah, I had a screensaver on my phone for the longest time. It was a picture of Pedro Pascal, and he's holding the Sailor Moon wand.
I know that picture.
Hi, we're Eric and Julia Lewald.
And we're here with the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
The podcast where the CGI is bad, but the story and characters are way worse.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 84. You'll know that when he puts on a little red shirt and joins Goliath, Wolverine, and Nefertina in saving humans from their own evil, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back and what's left of his latex suit.
Our guests today are a writer and producer combo couple in the world of animation. Eric and Julia Lewald have been big parts of such shows as the 1990s X-Men animation series, Young Hercules, RoboCop, Darkwing Duck, and so many others. They're also involved in the resurgence of the X-Men animated series X-Men 97, which will be coming to Disney Plus sometime in the near future. And by God, I cannot wait for that. We are so excited to welcome Eric and Julia Lewald to our show. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey, thank you so much for having us on.
Definitely, Steve.
Now, I've seen that many of the credits that you guys have on IMDb are credits that are shared between the two of you, whether as a writer or producer. One does one job, one does the other. And it appears that the two of you work very often together. Now, many married couples would struggle with such a working scenario. I love my wife dearly, but I'm pretty sure she would kill me by day number 3. Now, have you guys learned how to use the benefits of one to cover the weaknesses of the other, and how does it work for you guys when it comes to putting a show together?
We met as writers for the Disney Afternoon. It was my first professional job. You've been doing this for a few more years. I was so thrilled to finally get a job doing what I'd always wanted to do, which was write for somebody, anything. And you wanted to be a writer too. So we both loved what we do when we met each other. And you've often said it's like being a war buddy. You know, you've been in the trenches with someone. We can communicate fairly easily about the work struggles either one of us has.
Yeah, it's not hard when it's end of the day, and how was the office, dear? Well, we both had the same jerk that we were mad at. That if you're working on the same project and have the same kind of problems. So there's a great deal of empathy there. But as far as working together on project, you develop serious diplomatic skills, gentle suggestions, because giving your spouse notes is not often the easiest thing in the world. And 90% of the time, we've gotten at ease with working with each other and kind of trust each other. We just kind of split the work here. You take half, you take half, and couple months later, we're done, and our desks are 6 or 8 feet apart.
Right over there.
We get together for lunch and dinner, but except for when we're developing a new show together, mostly it's you take half and you take half, and I'll see you when we're done. So that some writing teams, I don't even think of this as a writing team.
No.
It's a constant back and forth, throwing jokes at each other and trying out scenes. And no, it's just like, she'll write a script, I'll go through and make notes. I'll write a script, she'll go through and make notes. We pretty much are two people making a series go. And sometimes one of us is on it. Oh, there's our German Shepherd.
Sorry
Nice.
about that.
Sorry about that, a little bit of background noise.
That's okay.
Having him inside, he'll bark less.
One thing that we did develop over the years here was the one-time rule. If we're actually working together on a specific episode of something, when we're butting heads,
Category.
we each, okay, you get one. So if I'm feeling very strongly about something and you are feeling very strongly the opposite direction, which doesn't happen very often, but when it does, each of us gets one per thing to say, no, I need to have this in, or I need to take this out once.
Okay.
Helpful.
Yeah.
The few times we actually do that together.
But our great mentor in all this is James T. Kirk, because he would 7 or 8 times during the original series there'd be a tense moment, and Bones would have one thought, and Spock would have the other thought, and they no one could agree. And Kirk would pound his fist on the table and say, "Gentlemen, I need that third alternative," which some people don't think is a real thing because alternative should be two things, so they can't have a third one. But you get the idea. You need a lot of times in our business, neither thing works, but you find some third thing that both of you are pretty happy with. Wasn't your original idea, but and it happens with executives, with everybody we're working with. Like they tell you got to take that scene out, and go, oh my God, that scene's so crucial, it just ruined the story. Instead of just saying no, you're an idiot to the executive, you say, oh, I understand you're not comfortable with the scene. Your suggestion doesn't work for me. How about this one? And that level of diplomacy is, geez, it's like 80% of our struggles in getting a show done get solved by that. And it takes some thought, and it takes getting to know the person that you're negotiating with.
Yes.
What they'll respond to. So that's X-Men wouldn't have worked. We had a wonderful censor because every kid's show has a broadcast standards person, and our person, Amy Coburn, luckily she listened to us every time. We say we want to start out our kid show killing somebody in the first story. Okay, why is that? And then
you had a reasonable answer to that.
But she would go back and forth with us, and she'd listen, and she said, okay, just handle it properly.
It wasn't to be graphic. It wasn't to be obscene about it. It was to show the hero's journey, that the consequences were real in this world of X-Men.
Yeah. So negotiations.
Awesome. Great answer.
I feel like that in any work relationship, especially when it's, a work relationship, but then a marital relationship, that you have that combination of I know that we work together as people. We work together as a couple. We can work together as a writing team too. That a lot of the negotiation and the understanding each other comes across in your writing, even in the way that the show works. That the shows work so well because they're well written, because you two make sense together. Like, I like that.
I want to give Eric all the credit for the development of the X-Men series, except it happened at our dining room table in our house because there were no offices back then. But with Mark Edens, who was what we consider your head writer, and I was a writer on the show, so I got to be a fly on the wall for the whole thing and voice my opinions.
A lot of the projects were the two of us from the beginning running the show, but X-Men was
Hercules,
like Young Hercules and Mummy's Alive. But X-Men was dropped in my lap, and
to give credit where credit is due.
So
I actually wanted, since you're getting the credit, Eric, and then I'm going to thank both of you anyway. Thank you guys for the X-Men series, because if it weren't for the X-Men series, the MCU probably wouldn't be where it is now. The X-Men films wouldn't have happened the way that they did. And that's huge to me.
You are speaking my language. Over the last 25, 30 years, I have looked back with fondness, and I agree with you completely. And I will go so far as to say, without the success of X-Men, the animated series, Marvel wouldn't have been in a position to ultimately make their first X-Men movies.
No.
There was an audience there because of X-Men, the animated series, because incredible as it was to believe, in '92, the general audience of America did not know who the X-Men were.
No, not at all.
Bingo.
And then with the success of the X-Men movies, that then begat money to make Iron Man, to make Thor. So thank you.
And
Catherine.
confidence out here, because it was so weird in '92. Margaret Lesh, who's the president of Fox Kids, it's her baby. She made this happen. She brought Beetlejuice there. She brought Batman there. She brought The Tick. She brought Spider-Man. It's all her doing. And these are shows she could not.
You couldn't give them away.
She couldn't give them away before to the networks that were there before her back in the '80s. And because they just thought, cartoon stuff, comic book stuff. There's not an audience for that. There's some pimply guys in basements reading that stuff. There's not an audience for this, to the point where when we were hired, this is something that we've forgotten until we look back at it. We did the first 13, and all the writers and artists were let go because they were pretty sure that it wasn't gonna fly, and then it was a hit, and okay, great. What other comic books are there? What other Marvel stuff? But it wasn't something that we wrote it assuming that our audience didn't know who these characters were. And that's just such a weird, given nowadays when 5 billion people know who the X-Men are, was a weird thing to think back on.
But did you guys, when you were doing the show originally, did you think that this was going to start the wonderful thing that it did? Do you think that, did you have
No.
any inclination that this was going to kick comic books into the forefront?
No clue that this is going to change pop culture like this.
It was exciting to be working on projects for the fledgling Fox Kids network, because Fox was trying to sort of muscle its way into the big three broadcast networks. And again, this is ancient history to people who were born now and don't understand the concept that you couldn't watch everything on your cell phone, because cell phones didn't exist.
Internet didn't exist.
Internet didn't exist, but it really, the feeling was more being part of a scrappy team of everybody who was trying to get in there and fight for Fox Kids to lift Fox Kids and therefore Fox.
Yeah, the exciting thing for the creative staff, for the group of us that really weren't big X-Men fans beforehand, and I didn't know the books very well beforehand. It was just exciting that Fox was letting us write adult stories, because so often when in our business, you come up with what you think are marvelous stories, and they say, no, dumb it down, cut out all that serious stuff. Make it for 6-year-olds and only 6-year-olds, and it's our money, so shut up and do it. And here it was, yeah, we love that. We bought this because it's adult stories. Run with it. You and your writers and your artists, make it as intense as you can. And so it was this incredible gift. That was the feeling at the time. It wasn't like, well, we're going to make history or change television. It was, we're actually going to get paid to write exactly what we want to write as 30-year-olds,
awesome.
30-somethings. And that was for the people that knew the books, the art, mostly the art crew, for them, they were just, after 20 years of watching, 30 years of watching Hollywood not quite get comic books right. We're not getting Marvel characters right on TV. This actually feels like true to the books. And so they were excited for that. We were excited to write adult stories. And so I think all that excitement came through. It wasn't like work. It was joy doing it. And it made us fight to keep it, because there were a lot of times when we started in February
of 92,
and it takes a few months to write the scripts and draw the storyboards and a few months to animate. So there's this 6 to 9 month period where you don't know what the show's going to look like, if it's all going to gel together and make sense and people are going to enjoy it. And we got lots, we got a lot of pushback from people. This is not like the cartoons I'm used to. Nobody's going to buy my cereal. No kid's going to watch this adult stuff between, So we got a lot of pushback until it was successful. And then, of course, the day it was successful, all those worries evaporated. They all had loved it the whole time. But that was a tough 9 months before it hit.
See, now your guys' show in '92 came out. I had started really kind of getting into comic books about 2 years previous to that. I was in 8th grade. So you guys came out when I was in the 10th grade. So I was reading comic books with my buddies, and all of a sudden here is this X-Men animated series. And I was like, oh, all right. And it to me, it was just like you said, it was the thing that drew me in about it was the fact that it wasn't dumbed down, the fact that it was very, I thought, written for, I was 15, 16, 17 at the time, somewhere in there. And I thought it was written for somebody my age who was reading the comic books, who was able to grasp deeper storylines and things along those lines. I didn't feel like it was written for a younger audience. And I always felt that it was very true to the books. And I love, honestly, I'll tell you this, it's because of your animated series that Wolverine has always been my favorite character.
Me too.
So, I grew to love him through the animated series. And when the X-Men movie came out and it was going to be Hugh Jackman, I was really excited. The only thing that really pissed me off about that is he didn't have his yellow and blue suit. And I was so mad about that. I'm still a little peeved. I still love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But so many things could have been solved in my brain if he would have just come out at least once in a yellow and blue suit, not the black and yellow suit that they put him in the first movie. But that's my soapbox, and I'm down now. So,
but for the movies, let me also point out, as Kathleen was mentioning earlier, they had 30 years to pull their team from the comic book X-Men to make the movie X-Men.
30 years of comic books.
30 years of comic books. They chose basically the same team that you chose for X-Men the Animated Series, and I think that speaks to the success of the animated series and the audience that found it.
And
Yeah.
we at Grand Rapids, I think it was, we hung out with David Hayter, who was one of the many people that wrote in the first couple movies. He got the screenwriting credit for the first 2 X-Men movies. And he said, oh yeah, don't even think about comic books. He said the director never picked up a comic book. We just watched your show over and over and over.
Awesome.
So that was their starting point for the movies. And that was cool to hear from him, because it reinforced our idea that, again, there's this one person, Margaret Lesh. She for 10 years tried to get X-Men on TV, wouldn't get on. She becomes president. She puts it on TV. It's a hit. Things are so separated out here in Hollywood. She went to the feature people, I think maybe in 97.
Oh, earlier than that.
96, 97, when we were winding down, and said, you guys got to do, feature out of this thing, because I mean, look, we have hundreds of millions of fans around the world. Mm-hmm. Why aren't you? And it's like, features, I don't know, it plays as a cartoon. I can't see this. But so she pushed a little more, and they went ahead and gave it a shot. But again, there was no, now everybody can't wait to be in a Marvel movie. At the time, it was like, do we really have to,
right?
do we have money to spend on this stuff? Yeah. So yeah, it was a different time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think though the timing from the animated series to the feature films actually worked really well, because you had the kids who grew up watching the cartoon who now are adults who could go to
play. We had all the disposable income.
Pay to go see the movie now.
We had the disposable income to go buy all the things that came with the movie. So not that I did.
I mean, I literally grew up watching the animated shows. My brothers watched them. I was 2 months old when the show premiered. But I watched it through to 97 when it ended.
Yeah.
I loved that show. So then, like Tim said, Wolverine was my favorite. Wolverine was the best. And so when the Wolverine movie came out, and I'm like, yay! He's a person now.
Yep.
The credit there too, the movie Logan broke my heart in a beautiful way. The fact that people are saying, oh, you had 17 years for these films. No, you had like more years for those characters because of the animated series, bringing you into the movies and then bringing you to the conclusion with Logan, which is like, again, made my heart break.
And just, our dear friend who passed a couple of years ago, Len Wein,
yes,
who co-created Wolverine. And he's the writer who, with the artist Dave Cochran, created Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Swamp Thing,
just crazy talent.
A dozen of Marvel's immortal characters. He lived long enough to see Logan and loved it. See the movie.
Oh wow.
But I can tell you this,
so good to know.
The world was so small back then in 92. We only had fax machines, didn't have the internet. You didn't know that Len.
We didn't know he lived out here.
And in New York, that's where Marvel Comics were, and that's where he had been. But he had moved out to LA. So when you learned that fact, you reached out to him.
Yeah.
And
we did the first series without knowing that the first 13, the first season of 13, without knowing he was out here, and the fact that he'd written an animation script or two. So we found it out after the first series was done, and there's this phone call. Hello, Mr. Wheat. We're starting a second, so we called him in between seasons, and he's just wonderful. He was the humble guy we ever met.
One of the point to Wolverine I wanted to make about Len Wein was he got to write the episode in the last season, Old Soldiers, which is an episode with Wolverine and Captain America, and couldn't get permission from anybody at Marvel to use Captain America, but it's Len Wein writing the script, so he was able to make that magic happen. But FYI, Len Wein is of the opinion that there are no bone claws.
For the canon.
For his canon, there are no bone claws.
Yeah,
it's all
cool.
Because in Old Soldiers, there's a moment where he and Captain America are trying to climb a mountain face, and Captain America hands him some rappelling hooks, and he goes, "Oh, cool idea." So the irony is that in a few decades, he's going to become an adamantium monster.
But there is a split in the Marvel world, in the canon. Some people are adamant that no, Wolverine's always had extendable bone claws, and they just got covered with adamantium when he got adjusted. But no,
there you go.
He didn't start out that way.
I never liked the bone claws thing. I've always I've always liked the fact that he got those as part of being, part of Weapon X, and just so that's just always I've always leaned that way, but that's just me.
Len Wein agrees with you.
So you guys have definitely had a lot of projects that you're proud of, but was there like a smaller project that you guys have worked on that just needs a little more love?
Two or three, yeah.
I got to work on, and I'm very proud of the work on a 3-part limited miniseries back in the day, Red Planet, based on Heinlein's book. That
That was just all her, not me.
But it was not available. It was not produced by a major studio, so it's not been available for repeats, reruns, or anything. So it kind of is out in the ether there. But I was very proud of that and happy about that. I love the work you did on the original animated series, The Tick. He's uncredited on that, but you were key to the development.
Yeah, and that's when people know. It just was when Ben Edlund, who's this incredibly creative person, who's 23 at the time, some child.
Ridiculous.
Anyway, we've just had a season or two of X-Men, and it's a huge hit. And he brings his 13 comic books that he's written about of The Tick to say, well, could you make a TV show out of this? And Fox looks at it and said, this is the most amazing stuff we've ever seen. This is the best pitch we've ever gotten. And so he had no TV experience. So they asked me to help him to write the pilot script for it. So I basically took part of his stories and wrote the pilot script and then handed it to him. And then the person who's going to be the showrunner, I was in the middle of doing X-Men. So I would have loved to have been, heavily involved in the show. It was just like, I helped them get started.
Easter egg alert. The original pilot for the Tick animated series, Arthur gets fired from his own browbeaten boss, and the browbeaten boss's name is Mr. Wiederspawn, and that was our brother-in-law's last name. So when you hear the name Wiederspawn, Eric putting that in the show. So that's
awesome.
Proves he was there.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. I love the original Tick. Actually, I love the Tick TV shows on, as well.
Yeah, I love them.
One that didn't get a lot of love, that because the idiotic studio didn't bother to put it on anywhere but 4 a.m. When we were all let go from X-Men after the first season, the writers and artists, we had about 3-4 months before it was going to premiere, and so we needed work. We had to pay mortgages, and we had babies that just come out. And so a friend of ours at Universal had us do the first season of Exo Squad, which was an action big space battle, 52 episodes. It's supposed to be 65, but they cut it off anyway. A 52 episode space battle animated show from that time period, and that was something we did. And just as we were finishing the first season, X-Men came out and was a hit, and we were all, most of us were brought back. But that was something that we are pretty proud of. But again, Universal was new to kids programming, and they didn't know, we need to call up someone ahead of time and get a good time on Saturday morning.
They didn't have a distribution arm in place to get Exo Squad out there.
So it was mostly stoned college kids that watched it. And great storyline along with it, but not a big audience.
I wasn't a stoned college kid, but looking at the pictures, I'm like, oh, I do remember this. So
all right, so let's talk a little bit of X-Men 97. Now, we're not going to push for exclusives or unknown details or anything along those lines here. Just a very hearty thank you from all of us to you for bringing that show back. And I'm excited just to see that this has been in the works and that there's something going on with it. And so I'm hoping what you can tell us is how this came to be about, how it got back on the table, and how did you go bringing about my childhood back in the most awesome way possible.
Okay, I have a semi-prepared statement here that
all right, excellent.
Legally semi-obligated to recite when we start.
We can add a little more to it. But.
On November 12th, 2021, Disney Plus Marvel announced its production of the show X-Men 97, a continuation of X-Men the Animated Series. Together with producer-director Larry Houston, we have been brought onto the show as consulting producers. We are gratified and pleased. Beyond that, we have no comment. Wah, wah.
Yeah.
But
that's some serious legalese going on there.
With Larry Houston, who was the director?
He was in charge. Yeah, I was in charge of the writers. He was in charge of the artists. He directed the storyboards.
And every Easter egg you saw was him,
Yeah.
but all the great
Well, that's
art
cool.
was him. But the three of us have been asked to come back
Yeah.
by Disney Plus to be a part of the new X-Men 97 family, which when we got that phone call could have knocked us over with a feather
It was
that this
great.
was going forward, but that it was going forward and they were also including those of us who'd worked on the original show was
Yeah, people
remarkable.
had asked forever about, we started going to cons about, geez,
About 5 years ago.
5 years ago in 2017, when our first book came out. We should have X-Men. Anyway, we started going to cons, and the third question at every panel was, are you going to bring the show back? Can you bring the show back? Of course, we have no control over that. And
Sure.
we said we have to, you know, it was our favorite job ever. We'd sure love to do more, but that's really in other people's hands. And even at the time, Marvel didn't have all the rights to it. Fox had some, Disney had some. It was all split up, and so they weren't. There was just no way they were going to do a new series because they just weren't ready to. So, but then we heard from Disney, and of course we would occasionally put feelers out to what little tiny ability we had. Is anybody interested in doing some more of this? There's this immense fan base out there, guys. Don't you understand? And people say, yeah, we understand, but we can't. So then Disney Plus came on, and they asked us. And when that was coming on, they asked us the rights were together to do the second book with their blessing this time. And about that time, we'd heard that of all the things that they wanted to do, once they got all the rights together and once Disney Plus was kind of out and rolling, you know, top of their list was doing another X-Men animated show. And
that was
all we knew.
It was
just, okay, this is really going to happen sometime, but we don't know who's going to do it. We don't know what direction it's going to go.
It could be because there are many X-Men animated. There's X-Men, there series. There's X-Men Evolution. There's Wolverine, the X-Men. There's the anime.
Right.
They could go in any direction. We didn't know.
Yeah. So then we basically found out like a couple of weeks before the announcement. Not that long before before you found out. So look, they've committed a wonderful, huge budget. It's gonna be a beautiful show. They've got all these excited people, 30-somethings that are kind of like what we were then, that are just going 24/7, going to build this glorious thing. And the crucial thing was it's going to be a continuation of our series. That's why they called it X-Men 97.
Oh, awesome.
It's going to start up soon after our series of stories ended, and we'll have references so that if you've seen our 5 seasons, it'll feel like it's the same characters going forward with new stories. It's not a different universe. It's not a different team. It's not a different tone. It's, if you've seen the designs online, they're 95% similar to ours. They're just cleaned up and modern and computerized and sparkly because they can.
But we get our Wolverine back.
Yeah.
I see you may have seen online then that Cal Dodd.
Yes.
He's the voice I hear in my head whenever I see an image.
I can listen to this all day.
I'm so excited.
We just had our last week's episode was with Jennifer Hale.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, and I just noticed on her IMDb has been updated that she is part of the show, and it's and noted as in pre-production. So very excited about that. We had such a ball talking with Jennifer.
My daughter is 3.5 and into superheroes so much. Superheroes are her favorite right now.
Excellent.
And so I'm like, as soon as the X-Men 97 drops, it's the okay girl. We're doing this one.
Yeah.
No more superhero squad. No more Spidey and his amazing friends.
But you know,
you're going headfirst into X-Men.
I can't wait
with the original series. You know?
Yeah. I can't wait to rewatch the original 5 seasons and then start right into this. Because I will binge watch the original 5 seasons probably the 2 weeks before the first episode drops.
Okay, so you will. Yeah. That was us doing the work for the art and making of book was just going in and rewatching all the episodes, remembering everything, and going, gosh, there was some dense material there. There was some heavy duty stuff that got discussed. You know, very rewarding, and looking forward to where this thing is going to go.
So as we've been talking X-Men, and I have a fun story about X-Men to share, that I got in trouble in elementary school we were playing X-Men on the playground, and one of my friends told me that I couldn't be Wolverine because I was a girl. I had to be Storm, and I told him that was a stupid answer, and I could be Wolverine if I wanted to, and pushed him off a snowbank while yelling, "I'm Wolverine," and got in trouble for that. Which I anticipate is going to happen in my very near future with the tiny version that I've made of myself.
But if you were Storm and you push him into a snowbank, that's okay because you were doing Storm. I'm just saying.
Doing my job.
He just didn't think that I could be Wolverine because I was a girl, but Wolverine is my favorite. And
sorry that happened, but I
was gonna fight him for it, and then I got in trouble for pushing him off a snowbank.
I mean, Wolverine would have.
Right? Wolverine totally would have pushed somebody off of a snowbank.
Or you could have said, "Fine, I'm Lady Deathstrike," and then kicked his buddy like that. But,
That's true. That is true. So when you guys did the original series, were there characters that you wanted to have brought into the show that you guys didn't get to bring into the show that potentially get to come into 97?
Oh, we're not going to go there, but the sort of standardized answer about who would we have liked, as a writer, would I like to included, who as the showrunner you would like to included. It was a real juggling act, just trying to service the main team. This wasn't like, say, Batman, where you had your main character and then in the service of the story, everything around him, trying to figure out why isn't Wolverine in this story, but if he's over here and then Rogue's over here doing that. That was a challenge, just making sure everyone got service. 8
main characters and enough massive villains to make them endangered, and personal stories and family connections and old lovers, and you started out and okay, we've got 22 minutes to tell the story and you notice a lot of the episodes will maybe have like groups of 2 or 3 people there. Some of them are off one place, some of them are off another place. They can't get to the fight, so that we only have 2 or 3 people in the middle of the action, because just lugging around, it's like you need a school bus to lug everybody around. And then once you've got a fight going, you don't want people just standing around and not participating. It's not real. So you wanted them all using their powers. A lot of the writers had, oh man, here's an episode with 37 of my favorite characters in it. And all their powers show up and it's all cool. And everyone's on for like 3 seconds. And they were very excited and they wanted to see their favorites. And I just, as the head writers, held my head and said, we got room for 2 of those people. Okay.
Right.
Pare it down. So we never, it kind of, my job was kind of to hold it all together and keep the ship from sinking.
Yeah.
So the last thing I was thinking, oh my God, there are all these, I never was in the situation where there are people that I wanted to get on the show that I couldn't. It was kind of the reverse.
But for example, Nightcrawler was such an interesting character.
Yeah.
And you got to do 2 episodes for Nightcrawler?
So there was a 3rd one where he shows up short, but 2 real serious episodes with him.
And the same with Colossus. These interesting characters that it's just a challenge.
Yeah, and then we did one with Iceman, and probably could have done a couple, more with him. But there's so many characters throughout Marvel. I'm imagining when at some point Marvel throws all the X-Men characters into the current Marvel universe, the MCU, what kind of nuclear fusion that's going to be, trying to juggle all that. So yeah, it's a lot to juggle.
Well, like you said, there's the issue of giving each character enough due credit, making sure that their backstories are explained and that their personal interconnections between this character and that character are explained. And a lot of people complain about the love lives and things of daytime drama characters, but I don't think they've really read enough comic books, because they'd stop complaining. Because I think the only thing that has more of a detailed sexual history is possibly Greek mythology.
You're not wrong.
I mean, let's face it, Greek mythology would be about that thick without Zeus' sex life. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So
you got babies everywhere. We talk about that. X-Men really is a soap opera, and we agree with that. And I I grew up with my dad reading me Greek mythology and Norse mythology.
Your father was a professor.
Yeah, and so that was, and he didn't have any sense of what's inappropriate for a 5-year-old. Here's Hercules, he killed 100 people when he was a child, but yeah, so yeah, I very much appreciate all the personal stories that make up big epic action and big heroic action.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It doesn't really resonate with people, doesn't really stay with people unless the personal element's in there.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that, like, I know people got sick of the Marvel origin story movies, that individual characters getting their individual movies. I would watch those all day, every day, for every character if they did it.
I want a Gambit one so bad.
Oh,
Yeah,
We almost had one with Channing Tatum.
yeah.
Almost had one, and that so ticks me off. But yeah, Gambit is probably my second favorite character past Wolverine, and they only have had him for a little bit in that X-Men Origins Wolverine movie.
And I love Taylor Kitsch. I'll just,
Yeah.
I got no, but there's sometimes in the animated series, there was a chance to every half hour over the course of 5 years to sort of meet these characters and get to know them.
Mhm.
Movies are tough when you expect between an hour and a half and 2 hours to tell the whole thing and
Right.
introduce everybody, do the thing, have the conflict, and then resolve it.
Yeah, you got to bookend it in that time.
So the animated series did have that luxury of introducing the players and letting you get to know them over a period of time, and I'm grateful for that.
And I think
Agreed.
too, with the Disney limited series now,
Well, that's
with their,
interesting. Yeah.
I love that. And if that's what they keep doing with, as they're introducing characters to the multiverse, that would be awesome. That would be fantastic. With this is how we're going to sneak this person into, he's already been here, you just didn't realize it. It's like,
I just want them to fix their pacing problem. Other than that, we're good. I think there's a pacing issue with the miniseries, but that's just me.
still working out a few kinks.
It's all right. I'm getting characters that I wouldn't have gotten any other way. So for the most part, I'm sitting down and shutting up. But I just, since we're talking about it, I just let it slip out. But there's that.
As far as Gambit goes, I still prefer a staff and playing cards as my weapons. So I actually learned how to throw playing cards because of that. But
I was gonna say, who among us did not throw playing cards? And I was an adult.
Right.
So disappointed when they didn't do anything when they hit the object.
we've had a lot of inspirations that we get as we're growing up. What were the inspirations in your lives to become writers?
Well, and I was fortunate. Both my parents were professionals, and we grew up in a house full of books and TV, and just the joy of reading, the love of that material, finding a book you love, finding a show you love. It didn't even occur to me to be a writer, but in looking back, I had a spiral notebook at all times when I was a kid, and I was always writing little things in it. Then when the idea of actually moving from Texas, where I grew up, to Los Angeles to try and break into Hollywood, you can do that, or you can at least try to do that. That's how that works. Touchstones for me when I was growing up, gotta say, the original Star Trek series. That, boy, did that imprint on me. And the wicked BBC, because DFW, for some reason, our PBS station was the first in the country to start running Monty Python. And I felt
Nice.
so hip watching Monty Python. I'm feeling so cool and clever, but Monty Python, Star Trek, and science fiction books that really were formative for me, I think, if that's what you're asking, in terms of things I love.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I was telling you, my dad would read me the old ancient myths and things. He was a war refugee from Europe through Argentina, so he had quite an epic story himself. But he loved stories, he loved culture, he loved the movies. When he was in Argentina as a teen, and they were basically penniless, illegal refugees there, Buenos Aires had a huge, like in Paris, had these huge boulevards full of movie theaters. And it's probably like a nickel, to go, and he'd spend all day in the movie theater. And so I grew up with him taking me to the movies a lot, and some strange, very adult movies too, like foreign films and things. So I grew up appreciating storytelling through him, and wasn't quite sure where that was going to go, but just in college, the movie thing hit me, and I and a bunch of friends, 4 or 5 of whom worked on X-Men, were in the University of Tennessee. The people that programmed the movies for the students. I mean, people don't realize it was before home video. So we programmed like 190 movies a year at the university, and in effect it was our own education, because we had a group of about 25 people, committee that would fight over which movies we were going to show, and horse trade, and it was like being a politician, and I'll show 3 of these epic westerns if but I'll give you your 2 romantic comedies and all of that. So loved going to the movies, and came out here, made a couple low budget movies myself, came out here, hoping that Hollywood would work, and of course being very naive, and this place is strange and I don't know anybody here, and this could be difficult. It is for everybody. Everybody's got their story coming out here. But yeah, it was books and movies.
And Star Trek.
She was 8. I was 11. I remember the night the first episode showed was the day before I was going to move from Minnesota to Tennessee. I was at my best friend's house in his basement. What is the show? September 1966. What is the show I'm watching? This is so cool, with the salt monster. That was the first episode. And it grabbed me, and it stuck with me. And it was one of those early things that you never forget, like a song you never forget. Mm-hmm. So that was what grabbed our youth, that series.
And when we met
That's
at
awesome.
Disney, it was again kind of at the beginning of VHS and all that kind of fun stuff. So it was like, oh, you think you know Star Trek? Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, what about X episode? That was us kind of bouncing off each other.
Nice.
But Star Trek was that for us there too.
That's
it's
cool.
funny, one of the friends of mine that I had in school that we're still friends, and we watched X-Men 97 together when I'd go over to her or X-Men in 1997. We'd watch it together when she'd come over or when I'd go to her house. And I remember one of the times I went over to her house, and her parents had just built this brand new house. We went downstairs to go down to watch TV, and her dad's got this huge bookshelf filled with DVDs and VHS. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And I'm looking through, and I'm like realizing the whole center of this bookshelf is Star Trek on VHS. The entire series, the entire original series and Next Gen. And I'm like,
oh my God.
I have found my people.
Yeah.
Well, you did. You found our people too, apparently. So yeah.
All right. So kind of bouncing off of Nick's question there about your inspiration to become a writer. So I have to assume that in order to be a writer for these super cool animated shows and things that you guys have done over the years, that you have to have a depth of nerd knowledge, or at least have access to a depth of nerd knowledge to be able to write successfully. So as a non-writer who barely can spell his own name legitimately, I wonder how you guys...
It's really hard to spell.
Well, yeah.
I'll give you credit for that one.
Well, exactly. So I wonder how you're able to do it. Are you guys in fact nerds? Because around here, that is a badge of honor. Or are you just really good researchers with a crack team behind you?
Oh, no. The idea of a crack team behind me on anything. Oh my God, no, this is my crack team, me with a notepad going, what am I?
She is the team.
Yeah.
Love it.
But, okay, way back machine, going back to the original Star Trek, I grew up in Texas, and boy, nerd, geek, whatever.
It was not a good word in our youth.
No, but I was, golly, I was, and so that meant, again, back then, you didn't have VHS, you didn't have DVD. It took a lot more effort on my part to find, say, a used bookstore that might have some books about, Star Trek or these things, or because even then, just finding a bookstore that might have that kind of material wasn't as easy to do. Now you've got whole sections, but back then you didn't. So, and being older than all you kids there, it's like, it is nice that it's a badge of honor, but it is a badge of honor, and I do love to do research. So I guess it's a combo of things.
Yeah, and it has become this whole, the center of this culture that, as it was not something you'd want to admit to when we were kids. Mm-mm. You have to hide it and bring it out in the dark when you met a friend and shared it with them. But I think it was, for me, it was more, I was just compelled by the stories, and it didn't have to be, nerdly stories. It could be the Iliad and the Odyssey. It could be something even, stuffy, as long as it was compelling character stuff. I think heroic stories grabbed me. And so that let me ease into the nerd side of things pretty easily. But it could be Lawrence of Arabia, or it could be something that you wouldn't necessarily think of it as Comic Con stories, but as long as the characters were intense, that got my interest. And it just happened. Neither one of us planned to write animation. It was just the first gig that opened up out here.
Sure.
For each of us.
Yeah, and so it happened that we found ourselves in this world where the coolest, most exciting, most ambitious stuff in animation became superhero stuff. We've written all sorts of younger stuff, all sorts of gentler stuff, but it always comes back to, can we write a good character in the story? If it's Winnie the Pooh, what kind of intense drama can we do for these sweet little characters?
But you find it.
You find it.
Yeah.
You find it through the characters.
Get him stuck in Rabbit's hole.
Yeah, and it becomes life and death for them, and that's a hard thing to imagine before you get into trying to make the stories work. But you can, at all these different levels, you can make it just as dramatic if it's over something that small. But when you're a kid, it's like misunderstandings, or, oh my God, my life's over because I don't have my doll, or I don't have my friend is moving away. I think there was a Pooh episode where Piglet thought Pooh was leaving, was moving. And that's all it was a 10-minute misunderstanding, and realized, oh, he's not. My life isn't over. My friend isn't going. And that's just as exciting to write as the Phoenix Saga. It's just smaller.
I like it. Okay.
So Eric, you had actually mentioned something in your answer to Tim's question that totally leads into my next question. My husband was a huge fan of gargoyles. And one of the things that he nerded out the most about, to me, was these Shakespearean characters that were real in the Gargoyles universe. And you both wrote episodes of Macbeth, King Arthur, Oberon, Puck, lots of other characters that were real people in these settings. So what is it like to get to write in a universe where some of literature's best fiction is actually fact? Like, that's fun.
No, all of it, there is a certain, and I will say a certain innocent arrogance. It's like, oh, okay, sure, but I want to clarify on Gargoyles. I'm specifically involved with the last season, which I know for the purists may not be their favorite, but Gargoyles itself was such a rich universe, and we want to give credit to
Greg Weisman.
Greg Weisman, I see behind you there, Nick.
Yeah.
That to creating that entire universe.
Yeah, he was a buddy of ours at Disney, and when we were there for about a little over 3 years, and he just got started there, and that was his one big thing. He hadn't actually written very much, but he got hold of this and he ran with it, and he made it his, and it was entirely his. And they finished up 65 episodes, which is generally the maximum, and okay, that's all you need to syndicate forever. And so they were done. And then we got in this weird thing where we were freelance by then, and Disney called, a friend of ours at Disney, Jay Fukuda, who produced the show, called us up and said, well, we just got this weird order. Disney just bought ABC Network, and they want to put new stuff on it. And they looked at what we've done, and we've finished with Gargoyles, but they want to do kind of a twist on Gargoyles. Can you guys do it? Because Greg isn't interested in doing it. Sure, we'll run with that. And so it was, to us, a great fun thing to do. It was, again, different. They were over in this mythical land in Scotland, and now suddenly they're in Manhattan. But it was this odd kind of business decision by Disney to say, oh, we want another season, but we want it to be different. And that was cool for us, because we got to write 13 fun stories. But for some of the people that really loved the series, it was so off canon, it was so different that they just really never enjoyed it, and so that was we know we get it, but it's just we were kind of given the instructions to make it different. So,
but to your point, or to the point for your husband, I wrote an episode called "The Dying of the Light," where I'm seeing him, I'm looking right at him, but the gargoyle with the one eye.
The older guy.
Right. Yeah.
Ed Asner.
The thrill wasn't necessarily the playground of the gargoyles universe, where these characters exist and this is happening and this is real. It was, I got to write for Ed Asner. that was, oh my God, and that was
cool.
That was a big thrill, so that was fun.
Yeah, we were gratified to be able to be part of that for a season, and yet it was because it was odd because the bosses wanted it different. So there's your sum of our year on the show.
But I got to write for Ed Asner.
Yeah.
That's one of the shows that my husband's like, I can't believe you didn't watch that. I'm like, I wasn't allowed to. That was one that my mom was like, no, you're not watching that.
Okay.
It freaked her out. She wasn't okay with that one. I watched X-Men. I watched Darkwing Duck until I got banned from watching Darkwing Duck.
It's a great story.
Tidbit here, at Fox Kids, you worked on the last season as a showrunner on Beetlejuice when it moved over to Fox Kids. And asking them a couple years later, like on X-Men, it's like, are you getting any kind of like angry mom letters? That was always kind of the phrase, the angry mom letter.
Mm-hmm.
And X-Men, in spite of the stories
in spite of the quote unquote serious heavy duty adult violence that pervaded the series, very few angry mom letters. Of all the things, they said their biggest problem was Beetlejuice, because middle America devout parents were not keen on a show about a demon from the underworld.
Right.
The lead character and the aspirational, mischief maker. So yeah, they a lot of families found Beetlejuice demonic, which of course we chuckle at. We're writing it because we're just having fun with this goofy character from the movie, but you can see the connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the gargoyles thing growing up was that the gargoyles freaked my mom out for some reason. I don't remember what it was exactly. Mm-hmm. Darkwing Duck, I got in trouble for telling an adult to suck gas, evildoer. And I was told I was no longer allowed to watch the show.
Did you say cool beans to anyone? That
did.
I still say cool beans.
I still say which is really, it's great though. I've actually got all of Darkwing Duck on DVD because my husband bought them for me.
Oh, nice.
Much to my mother's dismay.
And yet another episode where we bring this up and your mother's
she's gonna watch this one and be like, seriously, again?
Hi, Kathleen's mom.
We even got who was it that we interviewed?
Michael Bell.
Yeah,
Michael Bell.
I got the voice of
Quackerjack.
Quackerjack. I've got an autographed picture from him, and my mom was like, can't believe you brought that story up again. I'm like, I'm gonna keep bringing it up because
it's comedy gold in my opinion. So
we have a Facebook group that has over 200,000 members, and it is just filled with meme after meme after meme after meme of science fiction stuff. Wow. So what two characters, you can each pick one, would you like to see come together from two different universes and to have their own show together?
Me and Spock. That's what I want. I've always wanted that. I've wanted that desperately my whole life. But you're just saying in the realm of pop culture science fiction, which two characters would be for me fun to have aside from me and Spock? Okay, I'll think on that for a moment.
So
there's almost too much to choose from. If we,
there is.
Yeah,
they could either be enemies or they could work together.
Magneto and Kirk.
Ooh, that's interesting. Okay.
Battle of wills between.
All right. I have seen there is this book exists. I've seen it online, but McCoy from Star Trek and Hank McCoy from X-Men together in a couple of crossover X-Men Star Trek episodes, and it's a hoot.
The real McCoys.
McCoy, and both heads snap, and then they turn back to each other and kind of growl at each other. Yeah.
That would be cool.
That's
So
awesome.
if it's you and Spock,
Mm.
it's Nimoy Spock, right?
Yes,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
gotta be.
And we're on the USS Optimi, and I'm the chief medical officer, and that is our ship, the USS Hope, that goes out there and is after wars and stuff. It's a medical ship, and I'm in charge of the ship.
Well,
But
somebody's
Spock-
I feel
thought
like you
about
put a lot of
wait,
thought into
wait.
this.
Sorry, you touched a deep nerve. You touched it.
This is clearly this has never been thought about before. So never come up.
No. And Optimi, because corruptio optimi pessima, the corruption of the best is the worst. So Optima being the best. So going out there and you're saving people who've been hurt by war. Golly, why haven't I written that yet? Come on, that's some fanfic that goes back 3, 4, 5 decades. Yeah.
There you go. There you
Write it
go.
down before you forget it.
Oh, I
Got the
won't do that.
notepad. All right. Well, Eric and Julia, we're at a point in the show where we like to take our guests through a little bit of a quiz.
Okay.
And so what we decided to do, typically what we do is something about the guests, who they are, what they've done. And so since we've been talking a lot about X-Men and we're talking a lot about X-Men 97 and how cool it's going to be once it comes back, we thought what we'd do is we would take you through an X-Men quiz. It's 4 questions long. All right. I love the look of worry. That's awesome. All right. So it's a 4-question
the look
quiz.
of worry is followed by them completely destroying your quiz.
Yeah, I know. They're going to
That's the
stomp
game
all over it,
plan.
and that's okay.
Lulling you into a false sense of security here. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's a 4-question quiz. All the questions are multiple choice. If you get 3 of the 4 questions correct, we want to send you this book, which is called Custodians of the Cosmos. Now, this is written by Drayton Allen, also Nick's dad, who is the founder of our Facebook group.
Really?
Now, this book is written about a young man who wanted to join something quite like Starfleet, but not Starfleet for litigious reasons. And after he failed and rejoined as a custodian, it allowed him to boldly clean up after those who had boldly just went. So that's the book, and we'd like to send that to you. Okay.
We'd like to win it. We'd like to get
All right.
it. Okay.
All right. So there are 4 questions. 3. If you get 3 correct, we send you the book. If you
Okay.
get less than 3 correct, we take a picture of you, we make a meme out of you, and we put it in our Facebook group as our fun sequence.
Oh, God. Okay.
We better suck it up. Here.
Yeah, okay. Here we go.
But if you do get a meme, you're in good company. Dan Povenmire from Phineas and Ferb also has a meme. So
Ooh. Can you take a picture of us with this over our faces? Just
sure.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Take us out, Nick.
Where do the X-Men train? Is it the Chaos Room, Danger Room, or the Crisis Room?
B.
Danger room.
You are correct.
Question number 2. Which mutant is a Holocaust survivor?
Magneto.
That is
Oh, we
correct.
didn't get it. We did not get our 3.
You got it right.
You've totally made me blur.
So sorry, I did that
That
wrong.
was your Magneto power there.
Hmm.
But we didn't get our 3 choices.
You
either.
did not,
And you
but
got it right, right?
you totally got it
Oh,
right.
you totally got it right.
Jumped ahead.
Okay.
Tell me that your questions aren't strong enough without telling me your questions aren't
Right?
strong enough.
Gosh, Tim. We need a better writer.
We do. You know anybody?
What is Kitty Pryde's original code name? Is it Pixie, Storm, or Sprite?
Number 3.
Sprite.
You are
Right.
correct.
Woohoo! We got the book.
You
We got the
did.
book. But you have 4 questions.
You got one more.
Yeah, we're willing.
So
we're
question
willing.
number 4, just so that you can make Tim feel like his quizzes are too easy.
Hey, we should know this stuff.
Oh, I upset Tim and made him leave. No. What device did Professor X create to locate other mutants? Was that A, Danger O, B, Cerebro, or C, Jarvis?
B.
It's B, but I liked A.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm surprised Spaghetti-O wasn't an option on that one.
Honestly, don't push me because it almost was.
Guys, I hate to say this because I know I'm late with my answer, but you wanted the 2 characters from Pop
Oh,
and
Sure.
I figured out a much cleverer answer than my first one.
which
If I,
one?
if I can cheat on this,
Sure.
Apocalypse from our show.
Okay. I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going.
Oh,
And the first Klingon commander in Star Trek, the original series, Kur, who fights with Kirk. It's like episode 26
David
or
Duff, I think
27. Anyway, it's at the very end of the first season.
first time you meet the Klingon commander.
And the reason those two should be thrown together in an exciting show is because the same actor was both of them.
Oh, cool.
Ooh.
First Klingon commander in 1966, 67 was John Colicos, and he was the voice of our Apocalypse in the X-Men. Same guy.
And as Star Trek nerds, we didn't know.
We didn't know.
We didn't know.
That's awesome.
We found out sadly after he had passed, and it's like our brains exploded. It's like, how could so close and yet so far? But yeah, that's a good one.
So,
Well,
Yeah.
not only do I accept your reconfiguration of your answer, but because it's got such a cool little Easter egg attached to it, I'm going to make sure that we send you one of these as well. This is a coffee mug that says I gave to the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund.
Oh!
Okay, so we'll send you guys each one of those as well.
The other
Okay.
side of it has the Funny Science Fiction Podcast logo on it.
Woo!
So, but yeah, we'll send you each a book and each a coffee mug. Okay, so you
Well,
guys
that's
you
nice.
won't have to fight over the book.
Oh, thank you. Because we do occasionally.
Oh, I understand that. My husband and I are the same way.
Well, Eric and Julia, thank you so much for being on our show today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you and what you're working on?
Please, if I am on social media daily, which I probably shouldn't be, but I am. Our hashtag is XmenTAS, and that's for X-Men the Animated Series. So XmenTAS on Facebook, XmenTAS on Instagram, xmentas.com is our website where we have some blog postings, behind the scenes photos and all kinds of fun stuff. So the big Facebook, Instagram, and a blog spot. So please come find us. We try and communicate with folks as best we can. I think,
Awesome.
Tim, isn't that how you found us? Was Twitter, I think, yeah. And hopefully we'll be getting out to a few more cons as hopefully the years,
including Grand Rapids.
Ooh,
Yes.
Looking forward to seeing you there.
yeah.
I've already texted my husband with the
We're going to Grand Rapids.
I mean, it's 45 minutes from my mom's house. Come on.
Well,
There you
so that's us. We were out there shouting in the wilderness for the last several years about X-Men. Anyone remember X-Men? Because
It was kind of quiet for a while.
yeah, but that's what got him going on writing his first book called Previously on X-Men, which is an oral history of the show. And you can
That's
get
cool.
it through Jacobs Brown Media or through Amazon or through our website. And then that gave us the excuse when they called us to write X-Men, the Art and Making of the Animated Series, also available through Amazon, Abrams Publishing. We encourage you to reach out to your local comic book shops because these last 2 years have been rough. But
Yes.
those are the ways to get the book. Find us on Twitter, and we have links to Amazon through there.
Awesome.
Perfect.
We are going to definitely link all of your socials.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we want people to find you. We want to support the arts, support X-Men. 'Cause we love them.
Exactly. That's how we get this stuff to come back and be awesome. And we also want to take the time to remind everybody that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help us to continue to grow, to continue to get amazing guests like Eric and Julia Lewald here today, to have these conversations with us and enjoy these little moments of nerdery and just to be happy. So please click that subscribe button down there. It does more good than you think it's going to. And please click the links down below. Go check out Eric and Julia's sites and make sure that you're following them for news and updates as it comes along. And if for some reason you are not happy with the content of our show today, please feel free to lodge a complaint with the head of our complaint department, young Hercules. Virtuous and pure, yet strong enough to rebuke any attempts of bribery or threats of a physical violence. But because he is a demigod and a little busy handling complaints from the world over, if you know what I mean, you might want to keep an extra copy of that complaint around just in case. But rest assured, due to his strength and stamina, he won't rest till the case is closed and you're satisfied.
Well, thanks again, guys.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you guys so much. This has been a lot of fun. All right, guys, that's going to conclude us for Funny Science Fiction Podcast. Goodbye.